Hey, fellow Rangers, it's me, Mario. Today we're gonna talk about Great Western Trail, Argentina. I was so lucky to be one of the few playtesters, or maybe a lot of playtesters, but one of the few that I know of this game back when Alexander Pfister wanted to see if it was working right or not. And I'm ready to discuss about it since I know that other videos are popping up. The game should be available at Essen, so I think players might want to hear something about the strategy regarding it. So I'll just be talking about strategy first. I mean, I'm gonna talk about all the new elements of the game, but I will also talk about them from a strategic perspective, like what are the big changes in the game when you actually play it. I think there's already a pretty good unboxing video from Paul Grogan available online. So if you want to see the awesome components of the game, if you want to see the instructions, if you want to learn more about the rules, I think you can go and check his video or maybe check on BGG. But today we're just gonna talk about gameplay elements. So um, the game is going to be amazing, but I have to show you what I've been testing. And I've been testing on TTS along with Alexander Pfister and other long-time Great Western Trail players. So this is definitely not what you're going to purchase, but it will help me show you what are the new elements and how they interact between themselves and why the game is very interesting. So starting off, you still see a loop, you still see the workers, you still have a player board, and you still have buildings. There are still objectives and cows. So the main elements of the game are still there, but the way you use them actually change quite a bit. Let's start with one of the biggest news of the game, which are bandits. You can see there are some paths that, like in the base game, have hands on them, so you're gonna pay if you pass through them. They are not hazards anymore, nor the old outlaws. Right now, they are bandits. You gain bandits mainly using guns, which are new assets. You might see that on the cards that I have in my hands, there are guns, and you can also see on these little heads, that are workers, that there are some guns. There is a new action that will let you fight bandits. It's over here. Basically, you can discard some cards for free using their guns. You can use the guns on your board, which come from the workers and from some upgrades, like these two, which are going to give you more guns. And if you reach a good threshold, you can gain one or even more tiles. Like if you reach 9, you can gain these 2 tiles. You're going to gain the coins out of them, and immediately you have to make a choice. You can either keep them as bandits, and they are going to be worth 2 points each by the end of the game, which is basically the same kinda of hazards in the first edition, or you can actually hire them as, it used to be miners, they are going to be farmers, and you're going to gain grain out of it. It used to be coal, but right now it's grain. So it's a brand new kind of worker, but you will not get it from the normal higher worker action. You're going to gain it by converting one bandit, which I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if you've been playing Magic the Gathering, but there used to be one very iconic card that was swords to plowshares, and that's basically what you're gonna do. So you're gonna trade guns for grain, pretty much. More on this kind of worker later on. And you can add to deck wounds, which are this kind of card, which is worth -2 points by the end of the game and has a value of 0. But if you deliver with one of these in your hand, it's going to be removed from the deck. So it's pretty bad to add this to your deck, but you're gonna do that to help you fight more bandits. And it's actually flavorful. I mean, who doesn't get some wounds fighting again against strong bandits? So, bandits is the first new thing to think about. It's a good way to both gain coins and gain grain. We're going to see why grain is pretty important, but strategy-wise, that's what they are worth for. Then another big new thing is the rail track. As you can see, it's slightly different. It runs on the top and on the left side of the screen instead of on the top and on the right one. The most important thing is that it does still have station master tiles. The first few stations are less costly and they give you more points than in the first edition. But the main thing is that, as you can see, there are some exits from the main path of Great Western Trail that you will unlock by reaching the stations, or not the station, some thresholds. This is very cool because it adds a whole new dimension that right at the start of the game you have to take into account while thinking, what am I gonna do in this game? Because you can stop in one of these stations and you can actually remove a whole part of the loop from what you have to go through each time. So let's say you reach the 17th spot, you can get out of the loop over here, which means that if you want to, you can skip this building for the rest of the game, which means that if you go heavy on engineers, you might actually want to get one cow at the beginning of the game and then forget about them. So it's pretty interesting. Like if there's a worker market over here, maybe you don't want, there's less incentive to go too much on the rail track at the beginning, but you can actually use the earlier exits a lot later on when you already have the workers going, your economy based on workers going. So it's very interesting and very cool. It's another way you can manipulate the loop other than placing buildings on the board, which used to be the main way in the base game. It's something that I love. Also, a small thing that was added is that there's the train depot where you are going to go back once you reach the end of the track. This is pretty interesting because it used to be that playing engineers was a bit tricky because you had a very good conversion by the end of the loop, but after that your game with engineers was gone, so you had to time correctly the last station to be it very close to the end of the game, if not the last action of the game. Well, right now you can go back here and still get up here, and here you can place as many discs as you want, as it used to be in San Francisco or New York in the first and second edition of Great Western Trail. So this is actually fantastic in my opinion. It made engineers way more interesting to me, and as you can see, the last part of the route can be very punishing because it's going to be full of these yellow bandits, and if nobody fight these yellow bandits, it's going to be a pain for you to reach the end of the track if you don't advance on the rails. So definitely the rails are more important, or you have to find you have to use these last few spots with your own buildings, knowing that you will have to pay some taxes passing over here. So that's pretty cool already. Another big use, I was talking about grain and farmers. So what is grain worth for? When you go and deliver, there is one whole new action that will let you spend grain. Again, here it's coal, but it's gonna be grain to deliver to some faraway docks. Remember, we are in Argentina, but we're going to deliver our cows to London, Paris, New York. Maybe these cities are going to change in the final version. I don't know. But it's a cool way to place a disc over here. And the disc that you place over here will come from your delivery. More on that later. And you can move a disc from a dock into one of these spots. And these spots are actually worth a lot of points, a lot of coins, depending on which phase in the game you are. You might want to place a disc in one of these spots, and they are exclusive. So if you place one disc here, nobody can take the spot later on. So there's actually quite a rush to get them. The other thing you're going to use grain for is to reach better. It used to be cities. Right now is better boats. So it used to be that there were crosses, red crosses that had you pay a tax to deliver to better cities. Right now you have instead to pay grain. If you don't have grain when you deliver, you have to pay 2 coins for each grain you're missing, which can, I mean, dig a big hole in your pockets if you're not careful. So normally you want to get at least some grain. So the grain can be used to reach these docks, these boats. And these boats will actually leave the dock in Argentina Once you reach some thresholds, as you can see, the yellow boats will leave here, etc., etc. The other colored ships are going to leave later on. I'm actually colorblind, so I cannot properly tell, but I bet this was like green and this was red. And when the ships are going to leave a dock, it's not possible to deliver to them anymore, which is actually very relevant. You have to plan your deliveries more carefully. There are some ships are going to get added, but not the same ones as they used to be. And they're normally a bit more difficult to reach, in my experience. Also, the discs that are on the boats, once the boat will leave the harbor, are going to be placed on the docks we were talking about before. And from that point on, before making the next delivery, you can move a disc from a dock onto some special spot. So definitely, the delivery space is way more interesting and fought over than it used to be. In the first edition, if you followed my videos, you know that unless you were collecting a lot of permanent certificates or a lot of cows, it was actually pretty difficult to reach the highest um, cities. So normally you just ignore them and delivered for earlier ones. Here in Argentina is a bit different because you actually want your discs placed on some docks because you want to move them. If you both avoid high level deliveries and grain, you're going to renounce to a very big chunk of possible points you can score. So you can do it, but it's way more tricky. So setting up for good deliveries is actually pretty important. You can still play a game without buying cows, but you need a grain engine at that point, at least in my opinion. So there's more pressure on deliveries. Then the board changed a lot, and the buildings. I won't go too much into detail about them because I don't want this video to be an hour long or so. I want it to be like 20 minutes or half an hour long so that you can get a good grasp on the main mechanics and on the way they interact with the game. But I don't want you to spend too much time on them because, I mean, buying the game, you will have a lot of time to explore them. So big changes. The movement disc will not reward you 3 coins anymore. It was already very good to get more movement, so you will not gain coins out of it. You don't spend coins to upgrade your hand. It used to be that getting more cards in your hand was a very niche strategy that you did only with cowboys and only in a few games. Right now, it's like a legit strategy. In my opinion, you're going to cycle your cows faster, you get better deliveries, and you get probably better at fighting bandits. Another big thing is the sixth unlock. The fourth one is free, it's already there. And the sixth unlock is a white disc. So actually, going for a lot of certificates can work pretty well in this game since the step between the fourth and the sixth certificate is just one step and you gain 2 certificates at once. So that's already pretty cool. This is a track that will count the amount of grain you have. It's capped at 8, so you will not gain anything by reaching that spot. By going over that spot. There are also 2 very good discs. There are these 2, and in my opinion, this one was very strong. You gain 3 coins and you gain 2 permanent guns. There is this spot that will let you get grain by spending coins when you stop in some place. This disc also get a lot better. You don't spend the coin anymore, but more importantly, you get to draw a card before removing one from your hand. So you get it's basically an upgrade of this action if you can afford the extra cost, and this white disc will give you 3 coins. Actually, I think that removing cards, while not a main strategy still, at least in my opinion, I know that some players love it. It's not maybe a tier 1 strategy, but it's a very good tier 2, and it can fit in a lot of other strategy. So going for it, it's not bad at all. It's also the change to get more certificates, change it. Now you're going to convert 1 grain into 1 certificate and 1 coin, which is again pretty good. I think it's easier to pay than it used to be. It used to be one step back with the train. I think here it's a more sustainable cost overall. Um, yeah, that's it about the main unlocks. So you have to think a lot about like your first black disc because it can be this one, which is very powerful. It can be the upgrade to your hand, and it can be the movement. And all of them are legit. I still like the movement a bit more, but you're going to make your mind. and make your own decision about it. Also, the rewards from the board changed a lot. Now you get a lot more draw and discard tokens when you go for Cowboys, which is very good, of course, because when you go for Cowboys, you're going to get good cows you want to draw into. You also get to remove a card, which again is very good if you think about it. And you can do it right with your first purchase if you're able to get two Cowboys. And the sixth Cowboy action is amazing. You're not going to just gain coins, which is what used to be. Normally, you used to get 4 or 6 coins. Now it's 3 coins, but you get an extra action on the cow market, which is, of course, amazing. And the builder is very interesting because right now you gain the extra building action on the third builder, but it will cost you 2 coins each. So it's actually very tricky to pull it off if you go for a double hire straight up because you're going to need a lot of coins. Let's say 6 plus 6 plus 2 for the higher, that's 14. And if you want to build a level 3 building, you're going to need 20 coins. That's a humongous number of coins to reach in the early game. So, but it's very interesting and it can make for some really nice turns, I'd say. Also, you can leave one down for Station Master tile, as you might know, and get it back. The sixth action is the same. The fourth one just give you more coins, which is actually still relevant. The engineers also change it quite a bit. You're going to gain some free movements, which is pretty amazing, and you get to remove one card or um, one card from your hand, which can also be a wound. And you can place a disc in a station you left behind while also gaining the coins to do that. So that changes a lot what you want to do with engineers and where you want to stop. Farmers are pretty linear. You spend coins to hire them, as we saw when you get a bandit, and you gain free grain. But you can also place extra discs in some docks, which can be very relevant if you are a bit behind on boats or can just change the way you want to deliver on boats. All the workers with a gun on them will cost you 1 coin more, which is something very important to keep in mind. And I think that's basically it. Some small changes on this building. You're going to gain 1 grain per farmer. So there is a new building that rewards you for gaining the new kind of builders. And you can either take a single auxiliary action or remove a wound card. And on this engineer building, you can discard 2 matching cows. This building is a bit weird because it's gonna get you an objective. I don't know if this is the final version. It might have changed a bit. But what it used to be is that you unlocked another train movement and you can get 2 train movements from this action without getting any engineer, which is actually very important in some games to, again, reach these red thresholds where you can get out of the loop earlier. I think that's it. Again, I don't want to go too much into detail with the buildings, but there are a lot of them. They are very interesting. They will offer new avenues to tackle the game. Um, there are no more, if I remember correctly, big movement buildings. The max is 3 movements, which I actually think it's pretty good, and it's going to force players to find different strategies to play the game. So I would say that's it. That's a lot to take in. So maybe you want to watch this video more than once. I tried to be fast. I don't know if I was able to. And yeah, see you next time. And hopefully, at one point, I will be able to record a whole game of Argentina for you to watch. So see you next time. Matters out. Bye bye.